If you're a nonprofit gearing up for a big fundraising campaign, there's one question that can absolutely make or break your timeline. How long does it really take to get a state registration approved? Well, the answer is a lot more complex than you might think, and in this explainer, we're going to break it all down.
And we're able to do this deep dive thanks to our friends at Ironwood Registrations. They specialize in helping nonprofits navigate these exact challenges, and this is all part of their multi-state fundraising compliance series.
So this is the question, right? It lands on the desk of every compliance professional, every development director. It seems so simple on the surface, but the reality? It is anything but straightforward.
So what is the real timeline here? Are we talking about a few days, a few weeks, or is it months? You know, the honest answer is, it totally depends. The time it takes can vary wildly based on a whole bunch of factors we're about to get into.
And let's be really clear here. This isn't just about some administrative paperwork. An unexpected delay can literally stall a critical fundraising campaign. It can hold up your expansion into a new state, put a grant application in jeopardy, or even stop you from onboarding a new payment processor. Getting the timeline wrong creates this massive pressure right when you can least afford it.
So why the huge difference from one case to the next? Well, the main reason is actually pretty simple. There is no single national standard. Every state is basically its own little universe, which, you guessed it, leads to some really big differences.
And the contrast is just night and day. Because every single state charity office is independent, you can have completely different experiences. You know, one state might have a slick online portal that gets you approved in a couple of weeks, but another might rely on a totally manual, paper-based review that takes several months, especially if you file during their busy season.
Okay, so this variability means we really need to understand the specific things that can either speed up your approval or, slow it way down. Some of these are in your control and some just aren't.
We can really break it down into 5 key factors. First, it's the state itself. We're talking their unique staffing levels and processes. Second, and this one is all on you, is the accuracy of your filing. Third is the complexity of your financials. Fourth, the time of year you file can make a huge difference. And finally, there's the sheer complexity of trying to manage a big multi-state expansion all at once. Let's just zoom in on filing accuracy for a second, because this is where so many organizations get tripped up. Simple, totally avoidable mistakes, like a missing signature, outdated officer info, or financial figures that don't match up, can trigger a dreaded deficiency letter. And that doesn't just mean you have to make a quick correction, it often sends your application right back to the bottom of the pile.
And this brings us to one of the most common and frankly riskiest assumptions we see out there. It's the belief that, hey, we can just file the paperwork a week before we launch our big campaign.
But the reality is, that's a recipe for some serious stress and potential compliance issues. Any tiny error, any backlog at the state, and your campaign launch date is suddenly at risk. Believe me, rushing this process almost never ends well.
Okay, here's another dangerous assumption. Thinking that silence from the state office is a good thing. It's so easy to think, no news is good news. But in the world of compliance, that is not a safe bet.
The truth is, silence doesn't mean anything until you have confirmation. Some states will mail you a formal certificate. Others might send an email. And some states, they might just quietly update your status to active in their online database without ever sending a notification. It is 100% on your organization to proactively track and confirm your status.
So this all leads to a really crucial question. What can you actually do while you're waiting? You sent in the application, but you're not officially approved yet. Is it okay to start fundraising?
And again, the answer is, it depends entirely on the state. Some places will allow you to start soliciting funds as soon as your application is submitted, but others strictly forbid it until you are formally approved. Launching a campaign without knowing the specific rule for that state is a huge compliance risk.
So, with all this complexity, how do you even begin to plan for success? The absolute key is to move compliance planning from being an afterthought to being a core part of your fundraising strategy. Let's walk through a framework.
A really solid plan looks something like this. Start by identifying your target states way in advance. Then, do your homework and review their specific rules about fundraising while your application is pending. And this is critical. Build realistic approval timelines directly into your campaign calendar. Make sure your financials are completely buttoned up before you file. And finally, set up a system to track every single submission and confirmation.
So, if there is just one thing you take away from this explainer, it's this. Approval timelines are not just a fixed administrative detail, they are a strategic variable. Proactive, informed planning is the only way to make sure your fundraising expansion is smooth, successful, and most importantly, compliant. For more in-depth guides to help your team navigate multi-state fundraising, make sure you visit the resources at ironwoodregistrations.com. We really hope this explainer helps you plan your next campaign with a lot more confidence.